Welcome back to The Bible is Art, where we explore the literary artistry of the Bible, and this week we're talking about where Ezekiel's new temple is. Ezekiel is a strange book, and it's strange in many ways. One of the ways it's strange is that there's a lot of numbers in Ezekiel, and these numbers come in two forms. First, there are dates, and second, there are measurements. Regarding the first, there are more dates in Ezekiel than in any other book in the Bible. 14 in total, or 40 depending on how you're counting, because you can either count the whole date, year, month, day together, or I'll count those as one. And most of the time they're very precise, including the year, month, and day. For instance, in the first verse of Ezekiel, it says, in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month. So, why all these dates? Some have thought that they relate to something that happened on or around those dates that we might know about from other sources, either inside or outside the Bible. But the problem is that we can't make it work. Most of them don't really line up with other events we know about. Now, it's certainly possible that it might relate to other events, but before we offer that explanation, let's see if there's any other explanation that might be more credible and explanatorily powerful. Furthermore, to use a wonderful phrase from the pastor Brandon Levering, the Bible is a relatively closed cognitive environment. That is, most of the meaning can be found inside the Bible, not in external sources. So, the second set of numbers are measurements. The last major section of Ezekiel, chapters 40 through 48, describe a new temple, an eschatological temple. And Ezekiel is brought on a guided tour through this temple. And the tour describes tons of measurements and quantities, walls, doors, rooms, etc. And once again, we wonder, why are we told this? Well, there's a fascinating connection between these two sets of numbers, these dates and measurements. And that is that most of the numbers of the dates are also found in the measurements. So the dates are repeated in the measurements of the temple. Here are some of the connections between the dates and the measurements and quantities in the temple. For instance, the first date in Ezekiel 1:1, in the 30th year, and in the outer court of the temple, there are 30 chambers. Also, in the temple building proper, there are 30 side chambers on each of the 3 stories. Or in Ezekiel 29:1, the date is the 10th year, 10th month, 12th day of the month, you have 10 steps, things measuring 10 cubits, and 12 gates, and so on and so forth. Out of the 40 date numbers, there are 39 that I can find matches to measurements or quantities in the temple. Now, I'm not saying that these dates have direct connections to their corresponding measurements, like the 7th month corresponds to the 7 steps, because I don't think that's true. But the author of Ezekiel is making the connection by duplicating those numbers because he wants to push us to understand that these two things, dates, measurements, are related. And the connection that the author wants us to make is that the book itself is Ezekiel's temple. Not fully, of course, just partly. That is, the readers of this book back in Ezekiel's day and today are already participating in the new temple. Think about this. What makes a temple a temple? Well, it's God, God's presence in it. And in the first chapter of Ezekiel, Ezekiel is a vision of God's throne coming from Israel to the exiles in Babylon. So already from the first chapter, the main thing that makes the temple is not in the temple anymore. It's in Babylon with the exiles. Furthermore, in these last chapters, we get a guided tour of the temple, so we actually get to see it and can return to it. So by marking time with the same dimensions as the temple, the author is communicating that God's presence is already being built into a temple in the very reading of the text. Now, of course, that's only the beginning of the fulfillment of this vision, but it is the beginning, and it is important. And that, my friends, is why the Bible is art. Thank you, everyone, for checking out the video this week. I really do appreciate it. Please, if you know anyone who would be interested in this, I would love if you would share it and like the video and all those things. If you would like to support the channel, that would be wonderful too. You can do so at patreon.com/thebibleisart. Thank you once again.